Oh, you are live.
Oh, you heard it. We're live. Boom
Hello,
room.
everybody. Welcome back to everybody's favorite emerging podcast. Some people call it the Wish.com Bankless podcast, but that's only temporary. It's going to be better someday. Sorry for the technical difficulties. I think we're about 8 minutes late, but that's okay because the people, I don't know. I think the people like waiting a little bit. A little anticipation building never hurt anybody. Anyways, welcome to the Boom Room. I'm with my good friend Sasha. Actually, I haven't even spoken to this guy in a few days. I've been traveling to Malaysia. Now I'm back home. And
Yeah,
yeah, how
welcome
you doing,
back.
Sasha?
Good man. Welcome back. It's been a little while. It's been, I think, a crazy week as always. Welcome to the Boom Room, where we discuss all things boom from separate rooms. I love that, honestly. And cheers.
Yeah, cheers to that. And yeah, tonight, I don't know about you, but last week was absolute chaos. So there was a lot of carnage. There was a lot of crazy stuff happening, a lot of hacks and exploits.
Mm-hmm.
Binance, crazy news coming out of Binance. Maybe some weird stuff about Richard Hart and the Hexagon Army too. Obviously, we want to stay on their good side, so we're just going to be unbiased about Richard Hart. And yeah, our original concept for this episode we are delaying because we want to put as much time and energy and thought into it as possible to deliver the best possible episode. We think it's going to be an absolute banger. So we're going to mention some crypto crime aspects, but we're going to leave the main topic for next time. But yeah, we have a whole lot of news to cover, and I think this is going to be our first ever episode with no guests. So
Yeah, just
just
you
me.
and me hanging out. Yeah, I think it was good that we delayed that one. Honestly, I know we've been a little bit mysterious about it, but maybe it's good that we flesh it out a little bit more and consult our legal team because there might be some controversy around that one coming out. But I'm very excited
Ooh.
for it. Really, I'm excited to sit down and talk a little bit more about crypto crime and rug pulls and whatnot. I think this episode is still titled "The Perfect Crypto Crime." We're gonna have to change that. That's been delayed. We apologize. We know you guys have been waiting. It's coming. Don't worry, it's coming.
Yeah, that's going to be an exciting, and I love controversy. I think that'll be great for the ratings. But yeah, maybe this is a blessing in disguise. We can tease that episode, and you don't want to miss that. It's going to be absolutely exciting. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, let's. I guess we can dive into the normal stuff. See how the
Yeah.
markets are doing.
We've got Bitcoin up here, and Bitcoin's not looking good. Just kidding. It's looking pretty all right. So we've got here's the 1 month trend, and we just continue to climb. Little ladder steps at a time, down to 37K, touching 37K right now. I remember was it this past weekend or maybe late last week where it was getting close to 40, right? I was seeing a lot of tweets on crypto Twitter coming out saying the bull run is back. We're back, baby. I'm not so
Yeah,
sure.
I don't know. I think it. I have the feeling it's going to barcode between 35,000 and 40,000 for the next few months, especially through the holidays. I know it was going a little bit up, but I think some of the news coming around Binance and Kraken this last week kind of drove prices down and emboldened the shorts. So I think it's maybe a blessing in disguise also for the crypto space. I don't think we're personally ready for a bull market just yet. I think we need a little bit more time to remember what that feels like and get ready for it. So I'm personally okay with that.
Yeah, I'm also personally okay with that. I could use things slowing down a little bit more, to be honest.
We're building.
But building. Yeah. Needs the building hands right here. We've got Ethereum up here, and Ethereum is, I guess, by all intents and purposes, kind of doing the same. I mean, we're seeing a rally above 2,000. I think that's pretty interesting, right? Because I mean, it was below 2,000 for a long time, many months, and so this is exciting. I've still got some ETH bags holding on to it. I'm a long-term believer. Especially, I'm a big believer in Vitalik. I think he's an amazing human being, amazing personality. Hope that doesn't come back to bite me.
Yeah, please don't do any weird stuff. You're our only hope.
Don't,
I heard this is a small tangent, but I heard recently that Vitalik mentioned he wants to redo ETH staking because there's some major problems with how ETH is staked. So yeah, I think he wants to fine tune the system. Maybe I don't know if that means with validators for nodes or just ETH staking in general, but one thing to watch out for among the other developments coming out of Ethereum.
I'm gonna check that out. That's news to me, honestly. And I mean, Vitalik, as far as I can tell, Vitalik's been quite transparent and pretty communicative about all big happenings around the Ethereum ecosystem. And his content is kind of like the word of God in the world of crypto, right? And so a lot of people look to him to what's happening as far as new token standards, what those new standards might mean on the technology side, and then what that could mean on the consumer or everyday user or everyday person side. So I think it's, if he says we need to roll something back or rethink something, might be a very good reason for it.
Yeah, and I think the whole point of Ethereum from the beginning was to put the onus on layer twos to scale the network. So they're covering security and the basic layer, but layer twos in this next bull market, I assume, is going to drive a lot of the change and make Ethereum the perfect network. Hopefully, I don't know if anything can be perfect, but layer twos are definitely going to fill in that last little stretch, the home stretch.
Oh, they're going to do something. Was this the moment? Are we looking at the moment when it happened? When the news broke?
What day was that?
BNB. This is BNB, by the way.
5 days. Yeah, I think so.
Oh my goodness. What a fall from grace, man. Oh, I've got some BNB bags still.
BNB bags. I think, well, we'll get to that a little bit later, but I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing what happened with Binance. I think it's actually pretty bullish for crypto, but we could talk about that a little bit later when we cover that story fully.
Yeah, for sure. We're going to dive into the Ethereum daily transaction charts. Not a whole lot happening. Again, we're talking about just this little bit here. This is the entire transaction history of Ethereum. But you are seeing like this consistent run up in transactions on a day-to-day basis. This, again, is one of the metrics that we look at in trying to understand the volume, demand, and activity on Ethereum. And again, it's like a pretty good indication of what's happening on this network. Who's building on this network? What are they building? And if this is a good indicator of potentially a new altcoin season or Web3 startup season coming up. So that's a lot of fun.
Yeah, we're definitely seeing VC funding heating up. I think October was all-time lows. September, October was all-time lows. Or sorry, not all-time, but multi-year lows for funding by VCs in Web3. And November, I've seen things massively pick up. So that's encouraging. A lot of people are starting to act or feel like it's bull market. And I think it might be one of those things where you can just will it into existence if you believe hard enough. Everybody wants to believe so hard. I'm not in that boat just yet. Like I said, I'm patient. I'm okay. But I think people, the script is flipped and people are reaching out to me for deal flow, which I haven't seen or felt in 2 years. Usually it's the other way around. You can't get rid of deal flow fast enough, but now it's the other way around. So that's a little bit weird and jarring for me.
Yeah, it's always weird when people reach out asking if you want deal flow. It's like, hey, I'm looking for money like everybody else. Can I please have some?
Would you like the privilege of investing in me?
The privilege of giving me your money. We've got the let's see, total value locked on across all major chains here, and so seen a pretty good rally and run up over the past 1 month. If you take a look, we've got Ethereum, Arbitrum, Optimism, Avalanche, Kronos, Bitcoin, Cardano, all in double digits. Solana, 103%. Oh, my bags. Here we go. But on the other side, we've got again BSC going down. I think that was anticipated considering the news, but Base, what the hell's going on with Base, man? I didn't expect that.
I haven't heard a lot about Base recently. After the whole Friend Tech pump, I think that's September, that big candle. And then it's kind of been trickling downwards. I don't know. I haven't heard much. I did check Friend Tech the other day to see if they've made any developments, and they've updated the UI, UX a little bit. It's still not that exciting to use. So maybe the fad is wearing off, or I don't know. I think it attracted, like anything, a lot of airdrop farmers, and I think they've gotten bored, or maybe there's not a whole lot of money to extract from that ecosystem right now. That might change in the future, but yeah, I don't know what Friendtech's whole deal is or what it's going to do to stay relevant, especially with other. We just did a video this past week actually on Friend3. That was a Web3 social protocol platform. So I see a lot of challengers. I think SocialFi is also going to be a big trend in the next bull market.
Ooh. Yeah, I think maybe Friend3 was the Friendtech killer. Who knows? But one thing that I'm seeing that's really interesting on these charts is a massive spike in transaction volume around the 17th of September. And, that doesn't really correspond so much with the price at all, even, even volume. So I'm not really sure what happened there. Maybe a few notable launches, but interesting nonetheless.
I haven't heard about anything developing a base, really. I couldn't personally name anything besides Friendtech right now and a bunch of meme coins. I think I heard there was one DEX that wanted to launch, but it's kind of rendered a little bit unnecessary because, Coinbase is the central asset exchange on that network, obviously, even though it's centralized. But I don't know how decentralized you can be. I don't know if there needs to be a DEX on a layer 2 owned by a crypto exchange.
Yeah, really weird, right? I mean, it's kind of like a completely competing service. But
Same with, I guess we got Pancake Swap on BNB, so that's a little bit weird too if you think about it. That's a completely centralized chain owned by Binance, the largest crypto company in the world, and it's supposedly decentralized. But how decentralized can you truly be on a network that's owned by Binance?
Yeah, it's a very, very good question indeed. I think, what's funny? I think lately for me, I've been seeing a lot of different new blockchains kind of pop up left and right for all different purposes. And it seems like they are all kind of like claiming the same thing: really fast transactions, really cheap transactions, and then like good for trading. And so it's kind of weird, like why there's so many copy pastas of this, like these new layer ones coming to market. And, like what demand are they meeting? I see like a really competitive landscape. I'm not sure if, how many of them are going to gain some traction and actually grow. It doesn't make any sense. And who's investing in these things, honestly?
Yeah, there's a lot of ghost chains that are going to be around for the foreseeable future that there's going to be no interactions or transactions happening on them. And Innovation Bytes, shout out. They get it. Ethereum for life.
Ethereum.
Face blue smiling. I think that was supposed to be an emoji.
I'm loving it. Well, so that's the market news. And now what about industry news? Carmelo, it seems like a lot has happened over the past week. I saw a LinkedIn post. Somebody put up like a photo and it was just bullet points. Like, I guess it was too much text to actually write in LinkedIn, but it said, this is everything that happened in crypto in 1 week. And it was maybe like 30 really, really big news stories. But yeah, first up,
I think I saw that.
We've got a crazy one, right? So here we go. Justin's son related crypto platform hacked 4 times in 2 months. What? 4 times? That's a first for me.
Well, yeah, it's not just one platform, and he is affiliated with a lot or owns a lot of platforms or projects. So obviously we covered it last week. He owns Poloniex. I still don't know if I'm saying that correctly. It's a very weird name, not going to lie.
Poloniex, yeah.
That was hacked. And then now HTX, which this is a little bit of news too that I kind of just, it breezed by me. But HTX is Huobi.
Yeah.
And they rebranded, and I totally like didn't connect the dots there. I was like, where's HTX? I thought it was a joke. Like, sounds like FTX. Maybe they were making fun of FTX, but that is the new name of Huobi. And that is Justin Sun owned. And yeah, they just got hacked for quite a bit of money. I think in total $96 million. I'm not mistaken.
Cointelegraph is reporting at least 100 million from the exchange. And so, there's a lot of controversy around this. And I think, I'm not sure what the details really were, but I remember reading something about, was it the infinite money hack? Am I referring to something else, or is that what's happened here?
I think that might be for another thing that got hacked, but we'll cover later.
Ooh, okay, yeah.
But yeah. Somebody just said Innovation Bytes. Huobi did get hacked for I think $6 million a month or two ago. And then they rebranded, and then they got hacked for $86 million. So not the best rebrand. You don't want things to go down that way.
What do you think their
And
third name is going to be?
I don't know. Hopefully, it's not like a play on Alameda Research or something like that. But yeah, I think also there are other Hiko, another name I can't pronounce, Hiko Chain.
Okay, yeah.
It's essentially a product developed by Huobi or HTX to bridge their assets from their exchange to other networks. And that was also hacked. And that's Justin Sun affiliated too. It's Huobi affiliated. So yeah, it kind of makes you wonder, like either Justin Sun can't catch a break and everybody's rooting against him and hacking him, or it's some sort of insider attack. And I'm not saying one way or another, but it's definitely looking a little bit suspicious. Yeah. Maybe there's somebody in the organization, because it was a private key attack. Okay. So for this one at least, not for the other one that you mentioned, but yeah, somebody's leaking private keys maybe, or I don't know. They're not up to date on their best security protocols.
I mean, it's really a shame. And I think we've talked about this to a number of people in great length. The idea that, you can have like however many smart contract audits or, back end audits as necessary to make you feel comfortable from a technological standpoint. But, so many people are forgetting the importance of people security and people vulnerabilities. And, this is something we don't see in the cryptocurrency startup space so often. A lot of companies don't even talk about security from a people standpoint, or train or educate their employees on some of the vulnerabilities that can come through, let's say, email or SIM swaps or whatever. And so, there's so many ways to hack these exchanges. And the fact that there was a private key that was compromised that led to $90 million from that bridge. That's crazy, man. And this is a really, really big exchange. There's a lot of reach and marketing awareness behind this exchange. They've got some great advertisement and branding deals with some big companies. So kind of crazy.
Yeah. We got another comment here. Justin Sun getting some customer funds via hacks. That
we're not going to say it.
I think, yeah, I'm not saying it personally, but it is a meme in the crypto space. Everybody says that he's just harvesting money in capital from all of these ventures. He has Tron, he has Huobi, he has Poloniex, several other things that I think BitTorrent he owns. He's got his fingers in a lot of pies.
Yeah, I don't know why he's just like rug pulling all of his major companies. That's insane.
Yeah, like that's talent if that's the case, which not saying it is. But yeah, I mean, I see how this guy. I was reading into him actually before the episode because I didn't know so much about him personally. But the dude auctioned. I think he auctioned, or he entered an auction for $4 million to have dinner with Warren Buffett, and then he skipped the meeting, and then he ended up getting dinner with him in 2020, and. Yeah, I think he also spent $28 million in an auction to be like the first civilian in space with a Blue Origin, and then he just didn't end up doing it. So the guy spends a lot of money. Maybe it's it's an expensive lifestyle to maintain.
I mean, that's not like that's not a good track record. If you think about it, he's a very flaky person. And then so all of these hacks happen in the same week. What's going on, man?
Well, I don't want to get sued by Justin Sun because I know he's sued people. So yeah, I say innocent until proven guilty.
We've got a list of CNN actually put this list together of some very notable hacks. Again, we've got Euler Finance earlier this year. That was a crazy one. Kronos, Angle, Multi-Chain, Balancer, SafeMoon. Funny enough, 9 million from SafeMoon is not even like close to the extent of damage that happened from the founders of this company. So
that could have been them too. That could have been an inside job. Oh, yeah. One thing that's hilarious to me there is that KuCoin, if you go back down, said KuCoin's Twitter hack 23,000. Like the fact that they mentioned that in the same the same breath as the other ones, it's pretty hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, it's the smallest one here. It's like, was that just like held ransom? Would you call that a hack?
I don't know. It's definitely not blockchain related. Hey, I think the screen is showing show notes. It's not showing the.
Okay, here we go. So we've got a Blast Network hits 400 million TVL, rebuts claim that it's too centralized. I know you were talking to me about Blast Network a little while ago. It seemed like was it a layer 2, I believe, that's come to market?
It is nothing actually. There's
Nothing.
no nothing. So the whole scandal, I guess it's not a scandal because everybody's still pretty positive sentiment wise on it, but it is the Ben.eth equivalent of launching a layer 2. Just send a bunch of money and we will make sure that something's built with it, and then you'll get your funds. Earliest you can get your funds are late February. So
Wow.
they have this interesting mechanic that I haven't seen. I got to give it to them. The guy behind the team behind Blur, the NFT marketplace, they had a hell of a launch. They did some interesting stuff to airdrop, and there's a lot of airdrop farmers making a lot of money, and that's how it immediately became a legitimate competitor with OpenSea. And that couldn't have been done if they didn't launch it in the fashion they did. So they definitely know how to engineer these sort of weird, unconventional launch, airdrop, whatever you want to call them. So Blast was essentially the same thing. You can get groups or cohorts of people. You can stake a bunch of ETH, transfer it over to the network, and then share codes. Get credit for sharing on social media and all that good stuff. And yeah, it's I've never seen so many people so quickly talk about something that I had no idea what was going on. Like I had to put quite a bit of research into this to figure out what it was.
Yeah, this
So
is kind of
yeah,
crazy. And then
this guy gets it.
look at this here. Blast is just a 3 out of 5 multi-sig. I spent the past few days diving into the source code to see if the statement is actually true. Here's everything I learned. Well, I'm assuming that this quote is, somewhat accurate. And to be honest, when I learned about Blast Network, I tried to do some investigation myself, understand what it is. I don't think they have an actual website. At least, what I was trying to follow went to like some really, really shady site. And then I think CoinMarketCap had a link that was broken. And so I didn't see a whole lot. I didn't really find a whole lot around the branding, and I didn't see anything on chain. And so this is what I'm interested in. I want to learn more about like what's happening with these tokens that they're minting or they're creating, and where are they going, especially if users are not getting anything till, what do you say, late January?
Yeah, I think like February, end of February. And yeah, that's why I said it's like Ben.eth just shilling a wallet address and having people send ETH there. It's a trust me, bro exercise. And or like BitLord doing the same. I think he raised $3 million to launch a coin, and then he's like, by the way, after raising 3 million, he was like, does anybody know how to make a website and a logo? I think he was doing it to be ironic, but that's really what some people are doing. And now we have this highly successful founder of Blur doing the same. I don't know. I think you said it in the beginning of the episode too. We don't need so many blockchains. Maybe we need more layer 2s because they offer a little bit more innovation and new wrinkles to be introduced. Maybe they do something different. But as far as I know, Blast, the reason for it existing, they want to improve the NFT space, among other things. And they want to, I think, have the first chain with native yield on chain. I don't know how they're going to accomplish that. And they literally haven't built anything yet. I don't think anything's going to be live anytime soon either, because they're raising absurd amount of money and bridging over absurd amount of money. And I know a lot of people have been clowning Paradigm for backing them. So I've seen a lot of great Paradigm memes in the last week.
Man, it's so concerning. You think about like, all right, so if you had to, let's say, dive into like a blockchain camp, Ethereum, let's say Tron, whatever, Solana, and for what reason? And this is it's not even like an unproven technology. It's a technology that I guess doesn't even exist. And so people like diving in and saying this is going to be the next best thing. They have a lot of ideas, which are words on paper. And it doesn't seem like, that's documented in any sort of official form or fashion. I haven't seen a white paper, like, technical or investor focused, but I've seen a bunch of tweets on a tweet thread. And so like, if this is good enough for people to, get gung ho and invest in, I'm really not sure if they're going to make it. It's things like this, like, the Blur airdrop campaign that people are talking about when they start talking about Blast and how the Blur team was highly successful in everything that they did. This is exactly what they want you to talk about. This is exactly what they're trying to do. They're trying to leverage past history, maybe even just one big, very, very high note in that history to get you to think, the next thing might be bigger and better. And it's so weird when it comes to the Blur airdrop. Like personally, I didn't think the Blur airdrop was so fantastic. I mean, they had some mentality or methodology behind it and trying to poach business from like a target competitor, which at the time was OpenSea. But it wasn't as like complex as people put it out to be. And I know it wasn't as effective as everyone says, because so many other people tried to replicate that methodology for their own airdrops and were not nearly as successful. So I'm kind of convinced Blur was like a right time, right place kind of thing. But that's just me being devil's advocate. I'm not sure what this is going to do. I'm very skeptical still.
Well, with Blur, I think it was a little bit of what you said, right time, right place, but also how many NFT marketplaces have we seen that promise the world and they're extinct now? It's not easy to compete with Magic Eden, OpenSea, these big heavy hitters. And Blur just came out of left field and became immediately positioned itself at the top, which is kind of crazy. And if you look at the token price, Blur is not doing bad. And I would say it's a massive success. The campaign itself, it wasn't anything crazy, as you said, but they did. I think it was partially the user experience. The platform itself was beautiful. It was gamified. It was easy to use. It attracted a lot of people that made a lot of money on it, which is it's cool, good for them. Like they played the game and they earned, and they were part of the rise of Blur. So it had to happen somehow. That's how it happened. They paid a lot of people, but that money came back to them in spades.
Yeah, I mean they did a good job, and I think they went to market at the right time. Again, I think OpenSea, it was like this kind of monopoly or oligopoly where like they set the rules, they determined what was happening in the NFT arena, and so like the industry was ripe for another big player to step in.
I think they dropped it also. It was on the heels of an announcement that OpenSea was going to stop doing royalties or something like that, which was pretty controversial. And Blur, they were like, no time like the present, and then they launched and immediately became competitors, which is kind of interesting. Like I like hearing success stories like that, at least because it helps me and you as advisors figure out new strategies to go to market and attract a lot of attention quickly. And I think that's part of why Blast has seen this buzz, because you're right, people remember what happened with Blur and they're assuming that this is going to be a repeat of that, if not better. So it's not a surprise that a lot of people are farming this, sending out codes. I personally haven't done anything with this yet, and I'm not really planning on it. I don't have time to do that, but maybe I'm going to regret that in a few months.
Don't regret it, man. We've got a lot of good things happening, just like the Boom Room. Speaking of the Boom Room, going back to industry news, we've got Mt. Gox is going to begin repaying creditors in cash shortly this year, whatever the hell shortly means. But Mt. Gox, I mean, we're talking about like ancient crypto news, right? And so this, like the last cycle really. And so like it's kind of a concerning thing about how long this took to actually happen. And so, maybe that kind of gives some people a picture of what will happen with, let's say, a major centralized exchange hack, like, I don't know, FTX, who knows?
Yeah, I mean, there was a point in time, like I think a lot of people aren't familiar with it, but it is ancient history in the crypto space. I think spanning back to the 2013, 2014. But there was a point in time where 70% of all Bitcoins were located on this exchange. And I think they were responsible for losing 750,000 Bitcoin. A small amount of that, maybe like 20%. I don't know where that number is coming from. I think we're recovered. But basically, they owe a whole lot of money to a whole lot of people. And why this is interesting for the crypto space and why people have been speculating for so long is the fact that they, at some point, have to liquidate Bitcoin. They have to pay back creditors. They have to, and I don't know, a lot of people are speculating that the price of Bitcoin is going to go down once this starts to happen. But they've been saying it's right around the corner for years. So who knows if it's actually the case now, but I'm hearing early 2024, they're going to start repaying.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I think going back to like, the history of what Bitcoin and cryptocurrency looked like back then, and correct me if I'm wrong, Bitcoin was just like swapped from user to user, and it was sold on, like very, very shaky infrastructure across like websites, kind of like the Silk Road, for example. And so like all of a sudden you have a major exchange that increases the accessibility to be able to send Bitcoin, to transact Bitcoin back and forth, to trade it. So yeah, I mean, that makes sense why 70% of the Bitcoin transactions happening on the network were on Mt. Gox at one point. It was just one of the first there, one of the biggest there. So yeah.
Yeah, and it's kind of crazy, the origin story. I implore people to check it out because it's fascinating. But the guy that founded it, he originally wanted to make a website where you could buy Magic the Gathering cards. And yeah, he started an exchange, I think, in Japan. He was an American guy or Canadian, I think. I think he's American. But yeah, he was bouncing back and forth, and he noticed the huge discrepancy in price between those two markets. And it's kind of like basic now. It's obvious. You can send and buy Bitcoin anywhere on any exchange at any point from anywhere in the world. But back then, you could literally buy them in one country, sell them in another country, and make a huge amount of profit off of arbitrage, which isn't necessarily possible now.
No, not really. They sold each Bitcoin for 5 cents. Oh God, man. Yeah,
Sometimes I have to remind myself that we're early adopters, but we're not that early. We're not 5 cents Bitcoin early. I wish.
I'd get a shirt that said I'm 5 cent Bitcoin early. I'd totally get that made.
Yeah, we've been in Bitcoin since 1987.
I love when people say that. Like, hi, I'm X, Y, and Z. And my experience is I've been in Bitcoin for 25 years. I am Satoshi.
My favorite is our team has a combined 368 years of crypto experience between the 7 of us. The math does not check out.
I've used Microsoft Office, which means I'm affiliated with Microsoft. So what do we have here, Carmelo? Bitcoin sender struck with $3 million transaction fee, the largest in history. Wow. I mean, that's kind of crazy.
I mean, one of I love doing the boom room, even though it's a pain in the ass sometimes. But I have been learning a lot in preparing. I've had to dive deeper in the weeds and learn some stuff, unfortunately. Just kidding. No, I like learning. But yeah, earlier this week, there was a $3.1 million transaction fee or a tax that went to the miners. And I wasn't sure why. Everybody was speculating and talking about it. And ironically enough, I saw a tweet from Richard Hart, from Hex, the OG Richard Hart. And actually, people like to clown on him, but he does know his tech. He knows his stuff. And I can't remember what he said exactly, but there is some automatic function that you need to send the money back to yourself after a transaction, or else you risk. It's basically like tipping the rest of your wallet's balance to the miners, the mining pool. So that's what happened. Some poor bastard forgot to do that and lost what, 139,000? No, 139.
139 Bitcoin. Oh my goodness, $3 million. And it's crazy. I remember I use this example all the time when I talk about the power of decentralized infrastructure and cryptocurrency. I think there was some big story about a year and a half ago. I forget which company it was, but there were talks of some major company, not in Web3, not in crypto. It was, I think maybe like some sort of pharmaceutical company that was going through a merger or acquisition with another one. And there's been some news stories about like the buyout price, like the final price for this acquisition. And right around the same time where I think they were supposed to be, concluding these negotiations, there was a massive Bitcoin transaction from one wallet to another in nearly that identical amount. I think it was $250 or $260 million of Bitcoin was sent from one wallet to another in a single transaction, and all for 80 cents in network fees. And if you think about what that means, that happened instantaneously and it cost 80 cents. And immediately you eliminate the need for a lot of very, very expensive infrastructure, like, legal teams or getting banks involved, insuring deposits, things like this. And so this is the real power of cryptocurrency. At the same time, the real power of cryptocurrency is that you just flushed $3 million down the toilet. So I'm very sorry to this individual as well. That's a damn shame.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's why we haven't reached wide scale adoption just yet, and maybe it's still far ways out, because anytime you hear something about this just adds fuel to the fire for everybody's parents out there that have enough reasons to hate crypto, hate Bitcoin. All it takes is for them to see one article like this, like, oh, apparently you could lose your whole life savings in one transaction, and they don't need to know anything about it. They just know that I can't trust crypto. So I understand why crypto still has a negative perception. To be honest, stuff like this, it's not very user friendly, and I'm already impressed when I meet somebody and they have, let's say, a Binance or a Coinbase or a Kraken account, and they know how to send money or trade or do swaps. Not many people know how to do that, but even more, how many people do you know that actually know how to use a decentralized wallet or a DEX, buy or sell tokens? I mean, we live in a bubble. We work in this space, so we know a lot of people that do this. But if you really think about it, not that many people know how to do this, and not many people are comfortable sending that much money over Ethereum, let's say, or Solana or BNB chain, because they have the keys. Ironically, they're 100% in control, and that's terrifying. There's no customer support. There's nobody to reverse transactions, and that's a little bit scary. I remember the first time I sent money, I was a little bit scared, and I sent a couple test transactions, even though I usually only do one.
I still get scared when I send like a big chunk of money on crypto. I'm sitting there having a little heart attack, like my fingers shaking out as I'm about to press the button. It happens. You never know. I'm making sure I'm copying and pasting everything and checking the characters as diligently as I can. It's just very, very, there's a lot of anxiety around sending something, and the only thing that you have is really like a string of miscellaneous letters and numbers. And even then, like if you have if you have trouble, like just even like reading some of these in a string, like that's very difficult. That's very, very stressful. So imagine
Bitcoin or Ethereum addresses for dyslexic people. It must be an absolute nightmare.
God forbid, man. Well, we've got Richard Hart's tweet up here. So it looks like, fun fact, when you're building a Bitcoin wallet, when you build a transaction, you have to send the change back to yourself, as what's left is the miner's fee. New devs often don't send the change and thus tip the entire wallet's remainder to the miner, a very expensive lesson in Bitcoin development that's been learned time and time again. And so the funny thing is that article showed that was a brand new wallet that was created, and then that was the first transaction, right? They didn't even bother sending a test transaction. Whew, amateur mistake.
Yeah. I mean, what's also interesting is there is a lot of development happening in the Bitcoin ecosystem, especially with the announcement of Taproot Wizards. I think they raised like $7.5 million in funding. Originally an NFT project, but I think there's a huge schism in the Bitcoin space. People that just want to use it as transferable cash, and then people that actually want to use the network itself to build other things. And there's a huge fight going on, infighting in the community. But yeah, I guess there's a lot of development happening. And fun fact also, I didn't know this, but it's speculated that up to 20% of all Bitcoins are lost forever, burned. Speaking of like missed transactions or transactions that you didn't properly execute. So it's kind of crazy. That's like burning tokens in real time, but accidentally.
20%. And it's got such a massive market cap.
Yep. So it's kind of crazy.
Speaking of Richard Hart, there was some incredible news that came out around Richard Hart, who was being sued by the SEC and he fled to Russia. You told me this, actually. I didn't know what was happening. But yeah, I mean, we're talking about Richard Hart, like the massive personality in crypto, always wearing Louis Vuitton, and, started Pulse Chain and Hex. I think he raised, was it like $1 billion or something for Hex? I forget what it was.
I think between all of his ventures, I think he's raised over $1 billion. It says there. Oof. And that's quite a bit of money. And yeah, so I don't know. I don't know where these rumors come from. Like one thing that we have to always laugh about in crypto is how ridiculous this space is. It's absolutely absurd. So the first thing, whale/dinobet.io stated on X platform. So is this supposed to be a trusted source on X? So I don't know how they know Richard Hart, or how they got this news, but yeah, Richard Hart has been accused of fraud. The SEC is relentlessly hunting him down. He's probably public enemy number 1 or 2 or 3. And yeah, apparently he fled from Finland to Russia, which I remember speaking to some people this week. Like, if I'm an American citizen, I don't know if I feel comfortable going to Russia right now, especially.
Yeah.
I know that there's not a whole lot of love between those two countries. And unless you really hate the U.S. government, maybe they might take you in and treat you nice. But otherwise, they could use you as a prisoner for an prisoner exchange. And I don't know if there's any truth to this statement, but yeah, apparently he's hiding out in Russia. Maybe there's a lot of other countries he could have gone to, and there's no extradition with the United States. But yeah, apparently he chose Russia. So who knows?
I'm not sure, but I mean, this seems accurate. This statement. In addition, the SEC pointed out that Hart misappropriated more than $12 million in customer funds for personal purchases of luxury goods rather than development agreements. I'm not sure how they measured that. I'm sure there's a lot of ways to financially maneuver $12 million into luxury good purchases. But I mean, the dude's always on YouTube wearing like luxury brand clothing. I think he bought a personal jet, a bunch of cars, and he's always bragging about it. So like, not a good look, really. But look, if you're running away, if you're trying to escape the SEC or being sued for, let's say embezzling funds, Russia's not a bad place. I feel like you can get in there and live quite comfortably if you grease the right palms. And apparently he's holding at least 703 million DAI, which is insane. Wow, he's got so much money on him if that's true. Very
15%, 15.5% of all circulating DAI. That's wild. I couldn't believe that when I saw that.
That's incredible. I mean, for those of you that don't know, DAI is a stable coin, right? So
decentralized stable coin.
A decentralized stable coin, which means that's $703 million in decentralized stablecoin cryptocurrency. That's incredible.
Yeah, and say what you want about him. I know I don't know. There's a lot of debate on whether he's good for the crypto space or not, but he does know his stuff, and I think he's a huge proponent of decentralization. And I don't know enough about Hex or Pulse to know how decentralized or centralized it is, or what the node system looks like there. But he does know a lot, and I think he's vocal about talking poorly about most of the projects and exchanges and blockchains out there, because he's developed his own, and he knows quite a bit, and he knows that a lot of people are full of it. I think he always makes fun of Binance Smart Chain, for example.
I mean, he might be a proponent of decentralization because he's trying to kind of promote that in his own self-interest, considering he's got 700 million decentralized stable coins. And he's kind of fleeing the SEC's charges. But yeah, I'm not really sure. I think we created a Twitter thread for Tokenomics Tuesday around Hex, and I think Pulse Chain, which pissed off a lot of Hexicans actually. So if you guys want to check that out, I would check out the Arcanum Ventures Twitter page or the X page. But yeah, I don't think there was anything that really looked of merit there. It seemed quite centralized. The utilities behind the token didn't seem so innovative. And to be honest, the documentation looked like, kind of like a meme coin. Like the website was awful. There was nothing too official. It was all a lot of very vague promises. And it seemed like most of the value came behind community marketing and speculation, which was, very upsetting, I guess.
Please don't get us canceled by the Hexicans.
Bring it on, Hexicans.
Hey, we got a good question here from Serene Miller. What is the difference between stable coins and stable token? I don't think there's any difference. I think it's essentially the same thing. Stable coins are just pegged to the US dollar. There are some that are pegged to other currencies like the euro, and I think they're going to make a stable coin for other currencies like the renminbi in China, or maybe Singaporean dollar, or maybe I don't know what they use in Dubai, but the digital version of that. But the most popular one is stable coins for the US currencies like USDT, USDC, and we got DAI, which is the only major decentralized stable token that isn't owned by a company. It's owned by the people, which is kind of cool. But yeah, stable coins are really helpful because they're not volatile and they're pegged to the dollar, which is a value that we're all familiar with. So it doesn't spike like Ethereum or Bitcoin. And it's very good for holding. It's very good for spending. You don't want to spend a Bitcoin, let's say on a motorcycle or a car, only for it to triple in value the next day, because then you're actually spent 3 times the price for it. Whereas a stable coin stays the same. So quite easy to spend that.
Yeah, yeah. I think in the context of Serene's question, she said that 18 months she's been hearing about stable coins, especially surrounding Binance, most likely around proof of reserves, if I had to guess, when it comes to centralized exchanges. If you think about a stable coin or a stable token being pegged to $1, the pegging is kind of arbitrary, but the main purpose is that it's pegged or stabilized to some value. And so the only volatility really comes from, I would say, the volatility behind the fiat currency, US dollar, in comparison to other fiat currencies worldwide, I guess. And so that's just really it. It's trying to peg it to something that is historically less volatile than any major cryptocurrency. But at the same time, volatility brings opportunity for, let's say, gains in investing. And so that's why I think with FTX and with a lot of different centralized exchanges, they may accept customer funds. And again, no one really knows for sure. There's very little transparency behind this, and regulations are just now being put into place. But they might take customer funds, and instead of holding them in stablecoin, which ensures a one-to-one value backing collateral for all the funds they took from customers, they might decide, let's take that and reinvest into something with a little bit more volatility, like Bitcoin. In FTX's case, it was somewhat of a mess around like their own token that they collateralized. But if all of a sudden the market drops and then you lose a bunch of value in your collateral, then you can't pay back what you owe to the platform users that have given you this currency. And so that might be the context of what we're talking about when it comes to centralized exchanges like Binance, talking about their proof of reserves. Like, do they really have the money that users gave them? But again, like very little transparency. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's true. And I think USDC is probably the most transparent about its collateral. It's over collateralized. I'm not sure about USDT, but you mentioned Binance. There was some issues with Binance several months ago. And I think they are getting rid of the BUSD token, which was the Binance stablecoin. That was one of the most popular ones. Yeah, that's going to be phased out, I think, Q1 of 2024, because they were working with Paxos to run that. And then I think it was partially regulation, and part the US government had it in its crosshairs. So they're sunsetting that token. And I think they're giving people until March to transfer those tokens out. So they're giving you a warning, but I imagine a lot of people are going to forget to do that. And BUSD is going to catch some people by surprise. But yeah, there is a lack of transparency, but I know Binance, the exchange, is quite good about showing all of its underlying assets and its collateral. And I think that's becoming more of the norm, because you can't do business with traditional companies without showing transparency. And that's the whole point of the blockchain.
Yeah, 100%. I had no idea that they're phasing out BUSD. And that was my next question. It was, what's going to happen if you just have some BUSD sitting in a wallet, which I'm sure I do. And yeah, like it's kind of weird, I guess. It sounds like they're just going to rug pull the stable coins. Like it's just worthless. They take the liquidity away from this major industry stable coin that they created. That's very upsetting. I better trade that out into something else.
That just goes to show it's not a rug pull if you warn people sufficiently in advance. Give them 6 months, maybe a year, not a rug pull.
Oh, man.
And yeah,
episode.
According to Innovation Bytes, there is a transparency page for USDT, which makes sense. I would be shocked if they didn't have something like that. But maybe when Serene is referring to back when they canceled this contract or looked into it, maybe they didn't have this. Maybe it wasn't part of their operating back then. I think it always was personally, but I'm not quite sure. All I know is that I don't 100% trust any stable coins. DAI is probably the most trustworthy, and that obviously has decentralized choke points or points of failure that are potentially possible. But USDT, USDC, those are businesses. They're owned by centralized companies. And I think we spoke about it, Sasha, last week during the Canadian trucker revolts or protest. people were donating money so that they can prolong the protest. And actually, these stablecoin providers were reversing transactions because they have that functionality in the smart contract to freeze funds in any wallet and to reverse transactions. So that goes against everything I believe in with blockchain
Yeah,
personally.
100%.
A little bit scary.
100%. You think about this is the major risk around CBDCs, and there's never going to be a CBDC that doesn't have this functionality built into the smart contract. I mean, it makes sense that whatever governing body that decides to issue a currency, they want to retain this control. But the real question comes down to, what do they do with that control, and how do they justify what they're doing? And so that's what you really don't want to see. That's like eliminating that altogether means sovereignty, which I don't think can happen, unfortunately.
And how flimsy it's going to be. Like, if they do have a CBDC, they can flag you for anything. Like maybe you made a Twitter post that they didn't really align with. Okay, we're going to freeze your wallet because we don't like that. That kind of falls into the social credit score, what people are saying about China, where you have a social credit score, you're monitored by cameras, by your online persona or your online activity, and your money can be frozen indefinitely. You might have millions of dollars in your bank account, but if it's frozen, it's frozen. You can't use it. What good is $1 million if you can't spend it or use it anywhere?
Yeah, what's even worse is, like, people are not perfect, and we're emotional creatures, and all of a sudden you have, like, someone's crazy cousin that works in the State Department that maybe doesn't like something that you posted on Instagram, or if like a romantic interest ignores his messages, and all of a sudden, boom, your life is frozen. Like, who's to say that won't happen? And to be honest, I don't really think that governments tend to hire the best people. I hope this doesn't come back to bite me in the ass.
Oh, so controversial.
But it just seems like, I don't know, governments everywhere. There's a lot of nepotism. It seems there's a lot of inefficiencies, and so, like, when it comes especially to crypto regulation, I think the government, governing bodies can use some SMEs to help inform their opinions on this, and that's what we need to see more in the US. Speaking of SEC and exchanges, we've got the SEC suing Kraken for allegedly being an unregistered exchange and mixing user funds. And this is kind of crazy, Carmelo, because when it comes to compliance, I think of Kraken and Coinbase as like the pinnacle. In fact, I love Kraken. I use it myself. I think it's a fantastic exchange. They're always very transparent, and their customer service department is fantastic. But yeah, this is crazy. It's like they're going after everyone now. They don't care who.
Well, they reeled in a massive fish with Binance. We're going to get to that. I'm so eager to get to that news. But yeah, I think they're setting their sights on others. And Kraken is, to be honest, it's the only exchange I really use. I don't really use exchanges much unless it's to put money into crypto or cash it out sometimes when I have to pay bills that don't accept crypto. But yeah, Kraken, I think they're very professional. They don't list shit coins. They're very respectable. So it's a little bit surprising, but at the same time, it's not that surprising because the SEC is a little bit crazy right now, and I'm not a fan of what they're doing.
They're losing a lot of credibility, honestly. It's crazy.
Oh, what little they have left.
Yeah.
The good news is that there is people like Hester Pierce within the SEC. She's one of the chairs that I wouldn't say pro crypto, but she's pro reasonability, being reasonable, being logical. She understands that this should be legislated. It should be compliant, but there has to be a framework. There has to be rules. You can't just expect people to follow rules that don't exist. And we saw that with Ripple. Ripple came in and they tried to play ball, and then Gary Gensler was saying, "Come right in, and we're gonna just register with us, and you'll be good." And then anybody that registered immediately got attacked, and that's not a good way to operate, no matter who you are, what government you are. You have to give people the benefit of the doubt and respect that they wanted to be compliant and from the beginning.
I mean, talking about like a one-trick pony, really. Like, I think they tried that a couple more times until the entire industry learned, well, that's not going to work. Like, I think you're being very clear in what your intention is. But yeah, going back to exchanges again, I think this is what you were talking about before, Carmelo. Binance settling with the U.S. government, $4.3 billion with the SEC. Big win for the SEC. And so, yeah, what happened here? Tell us about CZ and how he stepped down.
I don't think it's just the SEC, but there's been a lot of memes on
Just
crypto
all of
Twitter because CZ is always doing this, but people are saying CFTC, SEC, DOJ. I can't remember the fourth one, but I think this was a deal with the DOJ, Department of Justice, and CZ. Part of the terms for that is he had to pay like something like $40 million out of his personal funds to avoid charges, or part of the agreement. Not to mention the $4.3 billion that Binance as a company has been hit with because they have, quote unquote, been operating an illegal exchange or security seller since 2017, 2018.
Mm.
And a lot of money has been laundered. A lot of money has been sent potentially by, terrorists like Hamas or ISIS. And although you can't 100% verify anything, I think what they're arguing is that there was insider knowledge within Binance that they knew some shady shit was going down, and they didn't do enough to stop it. And there's been a lot of people resigning from Binance leading up to this in the last year. A lot of this has been going under the radar too. Like, people haven't been talking about it enough, but it's obviously a massive deal. And apparently CZ is also looking at 18 months in prison. Whether he actually faces any actual time remains to be seen. I don't think he's going to go to jail, but he does have to take a step down and a step away from Binance for no less than 3 years.
Yeah, it's a long time. I mean, he built this company up, along with a number of different people, and we're talking about the largest crypto centralized exchange in the world by a mile. I mean, if you look at the assets that each of these exchanges hold, I think Binance is like several multiples of the next one, right? And so Binance it's used by people worldwide. No matter what country you go to, you'll see the Binance app on people's smartphones. Everyone knows this company. And so, yeah, I think this is a huge statement coming from the US. But at the same time, I wonder, for Binance's argument, was there a lot of clarity around these regulations back in 2017? But maybe this is just, some, I guess, catalyst for bringing up a bigger issue. The idea that there were some shady happenings in the background. You don't become the biggest, in this industry, in my opinion. Is going to be a very controversial hot take.
Uh-oh.
By following all the rules, really. I think history has kind of proven that here. So, yeah, it's very interesting to see this happen.
I mean, to be honest, there weren't, and there still aren't really rules. That's the scary part. So they're retroactively slapping them on the wrist. I mean, it's a big slap on the wrist, but they are hitting them with things that didn't necessarily exist. But obviously, respect to CZ, he admitted to wrongdoing, and he could have fought this and had this long drawn out fight in court, but I think he understood the writing was on the wall and that this was the best step forward, not just for crypto, but for Binance especially. So I think he made the right move, and I'm kind of bullish on crypto and Binance right now because of this.
Yeah, you think the worst is over? They can now move forward?
Yeah, I mean, this is a step towards compliance. It's a step towards being on the same page as the U.S. government, being allowed to operate there, getting them off your back. And now they've wiped the slate clean, and they have like tabula rasa, so they can do whatever they want within reason. And now they have a framework, maybe internally. I don't know what it is publicly, but they know how they have to operate to remain compliant in the U.S. And that's good. That's like a big, I don't know, weight off their shoulders. So, and personally, I'm bullish on CZ because I think he's like on a level of Vitalik. He's an OG. I think he means well. I haven't gotten any indication that he's not operating in good faith, and he's richer than most people on the planet, so he doesn't really need to make money. And now he has a mandatory 3-year retirement from Binance. So I'm bullish on him and his hobbies and his free time, and he's probably going to go fishing a lot and do some cool stuff there. So good for you, CZ. I think it's not a bad deal.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what he does. I know he tweeted about saying, I think now I want to kind of focus on relaxing a little bit and maybe backing some Web3 token startups. So, I mean, imagine how many people are going to start blasting CZ's photo on their investor pitch decks now. I think
it's happening. I think already there was a huge anti-Binance, anti-crypto mathematician. I think he's Turkish or Persian, but he was like a huge vocal opponent of Binance and of crypto. And then he ended up launching his own crypto project. And then he put Binance on the pitch deck. It was a big controversy a few weeks ago. And CZ called him out on Twitter, and he's like, wow, you talk all this trash about us, and now you're sneaking us onto your pitch deck. And we covered this before, but we've been snuck onto some pitch decks before for projects we've never even heard of. And that was kind of, on one hand, it's like insulting. It's like, how dare you try to use our name, that we're growing, our reputation, to steal money from fun people that want to invest. But at the same time, it's a little bit flattering. It's like, wow, we've made it. People respect our brand enough to lie about us being involved. So
yeah, very conflicting there. We've had to like send some cease and desist letters and maybe some like, threatening emails. I think we're not big fans of this dishonesty, really. I mean, we're talking about bringing our brand and our names into the fold where someone might be raising funds, and we don't know what they're raising funds for. And we're very, very, we're very diligent in evaluating investments ourselves, and we're very, very selective because you just have to be really careful in this industry. I was talking to a friend earlier about like the token startup space and how many people launched NFT marketplaces a year and a half ago. And, it's funny, like everyone was thinking and everyone was talking about how, this is going to go to the moon. It's going to be amazing. We're going to make a lot of money. But, is there passion there? Is there a real plan? Is there a budget? Is there a development plan? Is there a strategy for going to market? Who's the team? And so, yeah, like all these things matter. And so, yeah, just like throwing someone's, throwing our logo on a pitch deck, that's very threatening for us. Our reputation is everything here. So, yeah, like it does feel good though, being featured like that. Anyways,
quick shout out to my friend Crypto Brown. It feels good to shout out people for subscribing to our channel. And if you want to subscribe and like and do all that stuff, we'll shout you out. Anytime you subscribe on stream, we'll shout you out. So yeah, thank you for joining the family, the Arcanum family, Crypto Brown. Good to have you here.
And thank you,
for all
Serene.
the good questions.
Yeah, amazing feedback from Serene. Well, Carmelo, I'm going to go ahead and plug us. If you guys like what you're seeing here, obviously, who doesn't like the boom room? You know what? The boom room is like the biggest thing to go boom in a little while. We're here to talk about all things crypto. We've got a very exciting episode that was supposed to be today, coming in another time. We've got to do a little bit more diligence here, understanding I guess legal liability, talking a little bit and maybe lining up some guests to talk about this because it's an amazing concept. We're hoping that it's going to educate people on the finer points of crime in crypto. But we don't want to, I guess, bring any controversy that might blow back on us. So we got to do our due diligence. We got to check it out, see if this is going to make sense for us. But I think we're kind of confident we're going to launch it next week. But for now, make sure you, subscribe if you want to stay tuned. We've got a lot more stuff coming, more on-chain analytics data, more tokenomics content, more investor content. And speaking of tokenomics, Carmelo, you ready for the next segment and the next discussion?
Yes, I am. And I think we don't have any guest on tonight because one of our fields of specialty, one thing we specialize in, maybe that's how you say it, is token economies. So we get to interview each other tonight and field questions from the audience because, token economics is sort of this black magic that nobody really understands. Especially people in the industry don't even understand token economies, let alone lay people that maybe have a Binance or a Coinbase account, but just casually hold money, but they don't really know anything about what it takes to design a token or create an economy or use the economy.
This is very true. And, this is kind of funny. These are things that we talk about all the time with each other. And so the fact that we're kind of sitting in the boom room and we're about to have this discussion on camera, this is a first. I think these are concepts within token economics design that we've wanted to kind of showcase a little while for people that might not understand them. For some of you, it's going to be quite basic. For others, I think it might be enlightening and educational, but we're going to try and drop some pearls of wisdom for y'all. We're talking about this article that we published a a long time ago, actually, token economics best practices. If you guys are familiar with our content at all on our website, you might know this one. It was the beginning of a long journey of tokenomics content where we started outlining some overall best practices for both founders and investors. And we're going to dive deep into this, I think. Carmelo, we're going to start with this very, very first point. And the very first point, as you can see, token organization is a must. And so let's begin. Carmelo, what does token organization mean to you if we're talking about token organization on chain?
It's a little bit broad, and I can't remember the exact contents of this article, but I think you're referring to how a company organizes their token supply internally.
Yes.
Am I correct there?
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of it's very important, right? And you see it all the time in crypto startups. You've got a company that might be launching a token. They mint the token on chain, and then immediately they'll dump everything into some miscellaneous wallet. And you see transactions going every which way. They're like taking some, they're putting it into a decentralized exchange. They're taking some, they're putting it into a centralized exchange. They're sending some out to investors. They're airdropping. And so the idea that you have this like catch-all where you're distributing tokens from means that there's very little financial organization. And if you're not very, very good at organizing things financially or analyzing on-chain data or organizing things on chain, this can be disastrous for you if there's no good record keeping, because you can lose track of which tokens are going where for what reason. This is a massive liability when it comes to taxes as well. And so the idea that when you mint a token supply, if you have, let's say, 15% going towards a marketing function, you have 26% of your tokens going to different types of investors, and then you've got 7% going to liquidity for exchanges, it's best practice to try and section out this token supply into different smart contracts or into different wallets, depending on their specific function. And it's even better practice to include what you might consider metrics for lockups, for cliffs, for vesting, and for distributions in these smart contracts, because all of this is transparent on chain. And anybody can see it just by simply going on something like Etherscan or reading the source code or reading some of the smart contract code and looking what cliff metric looks like, if it's actually 3 months or 90 days. And so this is what we're talking about, the beginnings of token organization. And so I think this is something that every startup, especially token startups that are launching their token, should consider doing. But, there's some reasons why you might not do that. But before we get into that, Carmelo, I mean, what does this kind of tell you? If you see, let's say if you see what you would consider to be good token organization, what does that kind of tell you about the startup team?
I mean, to your point, that tells me that they're really diligent and organized, and they probably have real traditional company experience, and they know the importance of staying organized and having protocols and processes in place, just to protect themselves in the future. Because like we said earlier, it's very easy to make a mistake when sending large sums of money or tokens, and you don't want to make this mistake not only for your own company, but for your audience, your community, or your other holders. But you just brought up an interesting point, actually. I wanted to turn the question around to you. For people that aren't aware, SAFs, it's an agreement you make to purchase tokens as an investor, as a VC in the Web3 space. So if you want to purchase a token, you're not technically purchasing it because they deliberately make the language in the contract. It's like an agreement for a future token if it's to be created. But obviously, if you're an investor, you want that token to be created. You want them to give their word that it's going to be created, but they can't legally do that. But what I wanted to ask you is, anybody not familiar, VCs have to do a lot of due diligence and research. But one thing you can't really do a whole lot of research on, in most cases, is what the token organization looks like and the smart contract for the token itself. You can't look into see what that actual smart contract looks. When you're filling out and signing a SAFT, you're taking them at their word that it's going to be on this network. It's going to be on Polygon. It's going to be on BNB chain. And then these things change, but it's a lot of faith and trust to put into a team that's raising money. So what do you think about that? And how do you think are there any workarounds for due diligence when you're looking into investing?
This is such a great question. If you're talking about like the SAF stage where you might be talking to a startup team and investing in a future token, which is what a SAF is, I think it was standard agreement for future tokens, right? And so, this is kind of why VCs, I think in the past 2 or 3 years, started diving deeper into crypto, because there were massive potential rewards for investing in token startups. And as a result, or on the flip side of that, you have massive risk introduced from multiple angles. And a lot of these processes are not hammered out. Many people learn the hard way. And so if you're talking about, for example, investing in a token, and that team most likely, gathering some funds to create a company and launch a token, they haven't launched a token yet. And so you don't know what the token organization looks like on chain. You don't know if they've put in purposefully, the wrong metrics that governs cliffs or token lockups in smart contracts, which I have seen before. I have seen companies purposefully put like 1 month, less token lockup on a smart contract that releases investor tokens, and then funnel some of those tokens to a centralized exchange and dump them before any other investor gets their tokens. We've seen that stuff. It's insane. And so there's no way to really understand if that's going to happen at the SAFT signing stage. And on the flip side, if you were to bring up these conversations with founders and say, I want contractual clauses built into this SAFT, into this contract that states if for any reason on-chain organization looks like this, or this sort of clause is violated in any way because of, let's say, an early release or liquidation or anything like this, then I want to be refunded. Many token startups will not even engage in that conversation with you, especially in a bull market. And this is what I mean about like the hype and craziness behind bull markets. People are so eager to give money to like the next best thing that's going to run up 20, 30, 100x. So no one's talking about this and they're just hoping for the best. But again, like these are the things that need to happen. But Carmelo, I'm going to flip this back towards you because this leads into the next question. Do you think there will be some sort of governing body or authority to bring in some level of standardization here at the smart contract level or at the on-chain token organization level?
I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. I think governments have to understand blockchain first, and I haven't seen any indication that they understand the underlying tech. Obviously, they can hire third parties or experts to help them. I think the IRS is, for example, hiring people to help them chase down people that owe taxes on crypto gains, for example. But as far as, we don't have any regulation for security. We don't have regulation for smart contracts. We don't have regulation for most things in crypto. So I can't expect that they're going to get to that before getting to what we spoke about previously about Binance or Kraken. We're still pushing the boundaries and seeing what we are able to do and what we're not able to do. So I don't know about the smart contract regulation. And, a small part of me thinks that this doesn't need to exist. I like the go at your own, like buyer beware, go at your own expense. Like I do love the Wild West aspect of crypto.
Oh my
God. I think there needs to be some regulation. There needs to be protection for people, but there should be a sandbox where people are safe and they can expect safety. And then there should be this fringe of the galaxy where you're allowed to venture out and, do your own thing. And if you get scammed, you get your money taken, you signed up for that. So there has to be something like that. I think that's probably the best system.
Dude, what happened to boring blockchain? That's
no regulation. Yeah.
we don't condone this message.
We're social media coming in hot.
Oh man, this is a hot take. All right, look, this is the funny thing about the tokenomics community in general. I think there's a lot of innovation coming from the token economics community. They're trying to think of it in a way of how can I improve my day-to-day operation, but as a result, a symptom is let's improve the industry. So the idea of like let's bring in some kind of like standardization to smart contracts. For example, let me tell you guys like what, this is a very crazy thing that I discovered when I was talking to one of our previous guests, Roderick, who is a token economist. He was asking me if there's any way of easily scanning smart contracts en masse to pull, for example, cliff or token lockups for like an investor wallet. So you see, for example, like the cliff for this project for investors is 3 months, and this project is 6 months. And so I was thinking, like, you know what, that might be possible. But then I realized every smart contract developer, they have a completely different journey, and they might use completely different variables or different structure to code that in. So the fact that someone could use the metric or the variable lockup, someone else can use cliff, someone else can use CLIF. And, this kind of like these changes, bring in a lot of room for error here. And I think there needs to be some level of standardization. But the funny thing is, like, everyday people like us can kind of build a platform or build momentum behind a movement to try and do that. And little by little, we make these incremental changes that make the industry a bit easier. And so that's one way to do it. You're not even bringing regulation in. You're not even trying to, catch regulators up who might be too concerned with trying to sue CZ for the 18th time. So this is one way of doing it, I think, and it's very viable. We just need to push a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, Team Boring blockchain shout out. Let's go. I think I'm going to switch to Team Exciting blockchain now.
No. You're talking about Team Wild West blockchain.
Team Wild West blockchain. And yeah, I agree with this. I'm very controversial tonight. Always somebody controlling. We don't like being treated like little children. Yeah, I think that's the spirit of blockchain, and why a lot of people get into blockchain is they don't want to be told what to do. And to be fair, I know a lot of people that don't have access to trading stocks, for example, or investing. They don't know how to do it. They aren't allowed to do it. So it's nice to have an option to invest, but with that comes the risk of losing everything. So it is a casino in some ways. That's scary. That's why, for me, I've learned some painful lessons in crypto and investing in general before crypto. And I think people need these kind of lessons, but it is scary because you have people listening to influencers and trading with 100 times leverage. They think they're going to make generational wealth and retire early, and they're following trading signals that they buy for $20 a month on Telegram, and they're listening to these people, and they're losing everything. And I think there needs to be regulation to protect these people, because they aren't in the know enough to know how bad these people are, how much of a scam it is. And you should always do your own research. We always preach that. We put out videos and content all the time. We speak our mind, but we always like to preface it with, do your own research. Don't take, I think we're experts in token economies, for example, but look for other opinions. There's other people out there that have other views on these things, and they're all equally interesting. So do your own research. Don't listen to what the hype is about any project or token or anything you want to invest in. Yeah,
stay hungry. Stay hungry for knowledge, really. With that being said, let's go on to point number 2. This one's kind of easy, Carmelo. I think you don't really need to talk so much about it, but we've seen this before, and it takes, I think, it's worth some mention. Respect the vesting schedules. And like I said, it's simple. If you sign a SAFT, if an investor decides to invest into a token startup on the token side, meaning they're giving money or they're purchasing future tokens that can be distributed once that token is launched. And they're purchasing those tokens based on a number of different factors that the team might communicate to them. For example, we're selling X number of tokens, this amount of the pie. We're selling it at these different rounds and valuations, and there's going to be like 3-month lockup on your tokens. And then your tokens will be distributed to you according to this vesting schedule. And that can be like 12 months, it could be 3, it could be 5 years, but respecting the vesting schedule is what we're talking about here. And it's worth mentioning because we've seen it a number of times. And by that, I mean, teams will mint a token, they'll distribute tokens to investors, and then all of a sudden, markets start going crazy. They start, tanking. Token price of everything is going downhill, and investors are dumping the token. And so all of a sudden, token prices start going down, and the team decides, hey, we're not going to distribute any more tokens until the markets improve. You'd be surprised how common that's been. And in fact, if you think about it, if you're talking about a SAFT and purchasing tokens as an investment, the token vesting schedule is a contractual obligation. It's part of that contract. And this is the other idea of like not baking things into your contracts. If you don't specifically have your vesting schedule, in some sort of clause baked into your contract, then you're legally not protected. So Carmelo, I want to ask you, like, how many times have you seen this? First of all, I've seen it a bunch of times.
Seen teams ignoring their vesting contracts or their terms. Oh yeah, all the time. But that just goes to show you that these contracts are not worth the digital paper they're printed on. They're like you said, there's nobody regulating this. I think maybe in the future, since blockchain is transparent, you will be able to go back and find who was not operating in good faith or who was being malicious in some cases, or just ignorant and not following the terms they gave themselves or to their investors. But it happens all the time. How many times have we seen delays in token launches? I think we've been invested in some projects for 2-3 years that haven't launched yet. And these are almost blatant violations of the terms that we invested on. But what can you do? It's happening across the board. Everybody's doing it. So it's a bitter pill to swallow, but that's part of the being a VC in the Web3 space, particularly. So,
yeah, I think one of the things that a lot of founders are kind of missing when they decide to disrespect the vesting schedule is that, like, if you're an investor, again, this is what you would consider a contractual obligation. Even if you missed out on the chance of talking about that beforehand and baking it into the contract, what are the founders doing all of a sudden? If you are violating that vesting schedule, you're immediately destroying all credibility. And you're not destroying credibility on like, oh yeah, I promised to build this product in 18 months and I swear it's going to be done in 24 months. No, you're talking about something way, way more basic, which is money. You're deciding not to give value to someone that you claimed you were going to give them value for. And so all of a sudden you've lost all credibility. Your investors cannot trust you anymore. And if your investors have some sense of power or community or network, that can work against you for sure. And so, you have to understand like what the risks are in actually deciding to disrespect the vesting schedule or withhold tokens. There's other ways to try and maintain token price and build sentiment. This is not one of them. In the long term, it will hurt you. And that's why we bring it up.
Actually, I'm gonna jump back to Team Boring Blockchain again, because the best way to do it is just trust the blockchain to do it. Make a smart contract to automatically distribute according to the schedule, according to the vesting terms, and just let it do the rest. Or have a claiming platform, but take it out of the human control. Like, just set it and forget it. That's the best way to do it, I think. How many people actually do that? I know a lot of companies that have been mismanaging either accidentally or on purpose. And, a lot of people don't know about this stuff because they don't know enough to look on chain at what's going on. And trust us, we know what we're talking about. If you've seen any of our content, specifically Sasha looking on chain and cyber sleuthing around and looking at all the stuff that's readily available for everybody to see. Anybody can go on Eatscan and look at the terms of any launch or any circulating supply for any token on Ethereum or Binance chain or Matic, and nobody does it. Nobody exercises their right to use the transparency of blockchain, which is scary. I mean, that's how you know we aren't even close to adoption, because even people that work in this industry don't even do that.
Yeah, the data don't lie, bro. Really. I mean, the data's there, and people underestimate like the value in that data. Really, if you're talking about like toppling companies or propping up companies, building great companies. Yeah. It's all there. And so imagine
if like Microsoft or Apple or Google had all of their financial history on a ledger that anybody can read at any time. You just have to know it belongs to them. That's the power of blockchain. But that's why it's ironic to hear politicians or people that don't like crypto saying, oh, it's for scammers to send money, or it's anonymous criminals. And no, it's actually more transparent than any system we've ever created in humanity, in humankind's history. And that's the irony, that people fought it for the exact same reason that it exists.
This is actually a really good point. If you think about like, a lot of trading volume and speculation and volatility happens around earnings season, for securities and stocks. And so, like everyone waits around thinking, is Microsoft going to miss it this year? Or are they going to beat it out of, are they going to beat their estimates? And so like, comparing to crypto, that's speculation really. And it's speculation based on one data point that comes to market. And then funny enough, like when that information's released, like the people that are able to read and digest that report as soon as possible, as soon as it's emailed out, they have an advantage in trading. And so, there's a lot of weird, antiquated ways where things are being done in the securities markets. But, there's somebody there gaining from something. And so maybe they have incentive to keep things the way they are. But imagine having a company's corporate finances all on chain. Ultimately, whatever speculation that revolves around trading its cryptocurrency or stock based on companies' finances as a fundamental, that speculation's all gone all of a sudden. And so it becomes kind of less fun. So if you're on Team Boring Blockchain now, that's for you, dude.
Yeah, and going back to what we were talking about earlier, I think Serene mentioned, a deal getting nixed because there wasn't enough transparency. And it's funny that we hold crypto companies more accountable for this than we do like legacy traditional companies. I know that there is a way to access information to audit companies to find out how much they hold in their treasury, but it's not as easy as it is in crypto. Like you and I can go out and we can look at any top 100 market cap company in blockchain and figure out more or less what we're dealing with, like the entire financial history. We can map that out with enough time and people or skills or platforms or data analytic tools that we use. We use pretty much every data analytic tool we can in blockchain. Yeah. And, it's possible. Anybody can do that. We're not super genius hackers. We're just people that have spreadsheets and we know where to look.
That's exactly it. And you can too.
Buy our class on-chain ebook that isn't ready yet.
Let me teach you about Bitcoin trading. So the third one we've got here is one of my favorites, and it's one of my favorites because it's still somehow such a problem in the startup sector. And so the idea is budgeting shows planning, and the idea of doing proper budgeting for your startup is something that everyone misses somehow. I mean, Carmelo, how many times have we been talking with potential token economics clients and we ask them like, how much are you looking to raise? And, what is the allocation of those funds according to your budget and budgetary analysis and your burn rate and your estimates around that? And like, it's kind of a deer in the headlights look. Like, what do you mean? I don't know. I want to raise as much as I can. Like there's no idea even of like what, how much it's going to take to develop something. And so as an investor, hearing that is not confidence building. Like that's a huge red flag. If you're starting a company and you're telling me you're not sure how much it's going to cost to build what you want to build or do what you want to do, I'm already out. That's a huge concern.
Yeah, I mean, it happens more often than I'd like to admit. And it is scary, but most people, they reverse engineer the budget. They reverse engineer how much they want to fundraise from the budget. But a lot of the times they pull a number out of thin air and then we ask them, why do you want to raise this much? And they have no good answer. We're like, have you budgeted? What's your burn rate look like? What's your 12 to 18 month what's your break even, all this stuff. And yeah, it's the deer in headlights look. Like they haven't even considered how much they want to pay themselves, let alone how much money they want to spend on development, onboarding, any position, business acquisition, or account managers. They don't know any of this stuff. And it's crazy that we have to do that for some people before we even agree to take them on as clients. We have to talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, remember in like what was it, like early to mid 2021 when like altcoin season was starting to really pop off, and then all of a sudden you had all these like just miscellaneous companies. I just refer to them as miscellaneous companies because they never did anything, but they all came to market. They all raised like close to the same amount and they all failed. And the funny thing is, you and I, like, we know a lot of these companies and these teams. We've spoken to a lot of them. And when you talk to them about like, why are you raising $3.5 million? Why are you raising $7.5 million? The answer is quite simple across the board. It's like, oh, that's what investors are like investing in right now. And for this valuation, and that valuation is like okay with them. And so there's like they claim they're going to be building, like some sort of decentralized music platform, but they haven't done any of the research to understand what are their development needs, how much money do they need to dedicate to licensing within the first 6 or 12 months, all of these factors. And they're just like hoping that they can get whatever money they can and somehow pray to Jesus that it's going to work out in the end. And, this is really funny in GameFi as well. When you talk to someone that claims they're going to build a AAA gaming title for $3.5 million, like, yeah, good luck with that, man. I want to see that personally.
Yeah, that brings up a good point. There's such a massive gap in between what they want to build and how much they're raising and what they end up building. So what I mean is that, yeah, I want to build the next great AAA game that will win Game of the Year, and it's going to beat, real games like Call of Duty or Halo or whatever. And I'm raising $7 million for that. I'm going to build a AAA game with $7 million. And what ends up coming out is no game, or, a mobile game that could be developed for $10,000. So, they set out to make a AAA game. They underraised. Like, if you want to make a AAA game, you got to raise probably $70 million, not 7. And then, if you're raising $7 million and you create a AAA game, kudos. Like, you're a legend and keep making games. You deserve all that money. But, all of a sudden, if you're raising $7 million and you're producing an updated version of Flappy Bird, then you've stolen people's money. That's not even AA. I don't. So that's the craziest thing. It's like, are they underraising or overraising? Well, depends on the final product.
Is that just A then? What does B look like?
Half C game. I mean, I remember we used to have to work with one of our old jobs. We used to have to work with some horrible game startups, and yeah, I think they were all like mobile phone game quality. And I think this next bull cycle, we're going to have a podcast session on this, but gaming is going to be huge again in the next bull cycle. Hopefully they pick up and actually make AAA quality that's been promised for years.
Oh, yeah. No, speaking of gaming, I guess we've got a fun announcement. We're going to be at World Blockchain Summit in Bangkok coming up next month. So if you want to meet the Arcanum Ventures team and you happen to be in Thailand, come out to Bangkok. We're going to be talking about GameFi, actually. It's going to be a lot of fun. So, yeah. See.
Yeah, and I know we got some GameFi clients and investments, so that's cool. Like, we always try to avoid gaming, but it always comes and finds us anyway. So I think most of our clients and most of our investments end up being gaming some one way or another.
Yeah, but for good reason, right? They see the criticality and they understand that we want to do it in the right way. And, hoping that that's what we've done as far as the token economy design goes, the support and the teams that we're working with. We're very, very optimistic about a lot of it. Well, that's all we got. Bullish. That's all we got for token economics best practices today. I think that's a really fun discussion. We've got many, many more pearls of wisdom when it comes to token economics coming down the pipeline we want to share with you guys. But we will do that another time, we promise. And Carmelo, before we go into the next segment, would you like to go ahead and plug us away?
Yeah, just mash that subscribe button if you love token economy content. We make a lot of it. Maybe even if nobody's reading or watching, we still like to make it for ourselves. So better if it's actually helping people and it's helping people learn more about the space and what to invest in and how to do research. So yeah, we definitely enjoy that. And if you want to work with us, we design token economies and game economies. We audit token economies. We do research for VCs and launch pads. We do quite a bit actually in this company. So reach out to today or tomorrow or whenever if you want to discuss building a token economy. We're here for you. We enjoy doing it, and we like to think we only work with the best.
Yeah. Unless you're a Hexican, don't reach out. So,
whoa. Well, I'll talk to Hexicans.
So we're going to go into our favorite segment of the night. One that isn't so joyful, but no less important. We're talking about in memoriam of KyberSwap.
Annihilated.
Uh-oh.
This time, KyberSwap. Unfortunately, this is one of the older swaps, and it was a decentralized swap. It got hacked for $48 million. And now that the hacker has all your money hostage, he wants to open up negotiations.
God, man.
Kyber's TVL tanked a whole 68%.
Oof. Oh my God, that was rough. Okay, so KyberSwap, Carmelo, what's going on with KyberSwap?
Can I just say that, like, putting the Arcanum logo directly after that makes it look like we're affiliated? Maybe our production team can not do that.
We did not hack KyberSwap, guys.
We're not affiliated. We didn't invest. We're not advising, and we definitely didn't hack KyberSwap. But yeah, it looks like there was an infinite money glitch, which is a shame because
they use, Jesus Christ, ice cold Cointelegraph.
Yeah, and yeah, I don't know. It's sad because like I'm a fan of decentralized infrastructure, and it's sad when that gets exploited. It's one thing if it's a team rugging or stealing its own funds, but it's sad to see this happen. And I think it was $46 million.
Yeah.
So the team, they actually offered a $4.6 million bounty to return the funds, and that it's interesting. I imagine if I'm a hacker, I can choose between being a black hat or a criminal hacker or a white hat hacker, which does bounties for a living essentially. I think I would give that 46 million back and take a $4.6 million cut. Avoid being a criminal, being labeled a criminal. Maybe get some gigs, be a consultant, security consultant in the space. But I think for people that don't know, you're allowed to send messages on chain, encoded into the actual blocks. And the hacker said, we could talk in a few hours. I'm sleepy and I want to go take a nap, which I can't help but laugh at, which is a little bit hilarious. Like, imagine getting hacked and the hacker's like, I'm tired. Let's talk later, which is wild. But I haven't heard since if there's been a successful bounty or not, or if they've returned the funds. So that's worth looking into. But yeah, not a great thing, not a great happening.
No, not a great look. Not a great look. And so, the funny thing is, they put the quotation marks around infinite money glitch. And, the crypto industry, like, there's enough history here where people understand what this means. And that's kind of sad, really. The fact that when people hear infinite money glitch, they have some idea of what that means. It means you're simply just minting as much cryptocurrency as you possibly can. And then you can just dump that cryptocurrency and extract as much liquidity or value from it. And so the fact that this is in quotation marks, again, it means that, I've seen it multiple times before. I'm sure a lot of other people have seen it multiple times before. And it's really sad, especially when it's coming to decentralized infrastructure. This hacker who's walking away with $46 million potentially from a decentralized protocol, it really makes me wonder, like, if they're not willing to take that, that concession, maybe walk away with 10% of that, give the funds back, and let KyberSwap live another day. It's very disappointing for me because, decentralized infrastructure is what we're all about. And this is a sort of protocol that I want to see live on. I want to see more of this sort of autonomous infrastructure be able to operate successfully. People learn from their mistakes when it comes to development or technical vulnerabilities, and this stuff stick around. So, I mean, if it was a centralized exchange, it'd be a completely different story. But
yeah, so
close to heart.
Apparently, they did send back 90% of the funds, and they kept the bounty. But I'm reading an article here. It says the KyberSwap team has recovered approximately $5.7 million after last week's $47 million hack, and that's a little bit weird to me. I don't know why they would. They're giving the bounty, but only getting $5.7 million back so far. So maybe there's more to come. But Yeah, it looks like the hackers at least willing to negotiate and talk, and that's a win-win. They get their money back. The hacker gets to be ethical and not operating outside the law. I think if I was skilled enough at that, I think I would be a white hat hacker personally. But who knows?
I'm not sure how much work it took to uncover that vulnerability, but that's a good payday, honestly. And you get to live to see another day, and maybe nobody comes after you. So, I'm glad to hear they're engaging with the KyberSwap team. I hope they resolve that. That's a massive, massive vulnerability and very disappointing. So I want to see them get back on their feet.
Mm-hmm.
Well, best of luck to you guys at KyberSwap, you guys and gals. We wish you all of the best. And again, I think that means that they're kind of excluded, or maybe included in our next section. Carmelo, we're going to wrap this episode up with our very famous segment, Bullish. So we're going to talk about whatever and anything that we personally are bullish on. Would you like to go first, sir?
Yes, I think I'll throw back to the beginning of the episode when I talked about friend tech. And while I'm not necessarily bullish on friend tech, I think one of the things I'm going to look to this next cycle is the rise of decentralized social media. And I'm not talking about earn to post. I mean, maybe that will be part of it, but I think we need censorship resistant platforms, and those already kind of exist in theory. Some of these Twitter competitors, for example, but whether you can actually have provable lack of censorship, I don't think it really exists yet. And it brings up an interesting question. Maybe we can have a whole podcast dedicated to this, but how do you regulate and censor when you need to censor on social media? Like, how do you keep the internet from being a complete cesspool where people are posting inappropriate content or inciting violence or racism or whatever? So it brings up interesting questions, but I do believe people are going to keep trying. Social media will become one of the biggest narratives, I think, along with gaming and some of the other ones, real world assets that we talked about. So I'm bullish on that. I'm bullish on Lens Protocol. And Lens Protocol, if you're still watching this, give me my handle. I want a handle for Lens Protocol, but I don't know how to do it.
Protocol is a good one. I like them a lot. I think DSO is fantastic. I'm still really concerned around, whatever is going to happen around censorship and what that might look like as far as decentralized governance. I'm very skeptical, and hot take, personally, I don't think it'll work in the long run. I don't think decentralized social is gonna make it, but that's just my controversial opinion, and I hope I'm proven wrong. So let's see what happens with Friend 3.
We can debate about it in another episode. I think it's gonna work. But yeah, we like, think about it. We run a company. Just think about this. We run a company. How dependent are we on YouTube, on Twitch, on LinkedIn, on Twitter? Even the company that licenses our domain for our website, we are completely dependent and beholden to people that can shut these access down to these channels at any point, even Telegram. So that's what I mean by decentralized infrastructure, not just social media, but I've seen people getting banned on LinkedIn. They have 100,000 followers or 30,000 followers, and that's where they earn. That's where they funnel most of the business to their website or what they do. And if that gets shut down overnight, your business is basically destroyed. And that's scary. That's a lot of power for LinkedIn. That's a lot of power for Twitter, for Instagram, whatever you run. A lot of people in e-com, they're completely dependent on social media. So I think that's more than anything why I'm bullish on decentralized social media and why I think there needs to be a better system. I don't know if it's possible 100%, but I'm waiting for a solution to that.
I'm very, very optimistic on like the business justification that exists behind some of this decentralized infrastructure. I think it's got a real place in this world, but I also think, like, human nature wise, there's going to be one guy or girl or they, them, that just gets the whole thing canceled with some bad statement that like needs to be censored. And all of a sudden you have to have some active centralized governance come in. And then, it just transitions back to the things that we know and see. And so I don't know like what that looks like. I don't know if we can have decentralized governance around censorship, but you know what? It would be pretty cool for like you and I to actually try and maybe creating a business model or token economy, like incentive model for something like this. We haven't tried decentralized social business model yet. That'd be pretty cool.
You know, we can do what everybody else is doing and plug in the magical catch-all that can fix anything. Artificial intelligence.
Artificial
How will we censor this? AI. Somehow AI.
And so now you're just centralizing it with a robot. But
No, it's
I guess,
decentralized AI, whatever.
yeah.
Open source,
right.
decentralized, all natural, vegan friendly, home
Oh my
range AI,
Gluten-free
cage
AI.
free AI.
Oh God. All right. Well, you know what? That's a good way to end it. That's all we got for today. Again, thank you everybody for tuning in and watching. Thank you to all of our consistent viewers. Serene, thank you for your messages. The Rap, Versosa, Medias, all these guys. We love your comments. We love your feedback. We're loving this discussion, and we're loving the Boom Room. We're really excited for an upcoming episode where we will discuss the perfect crypto crime. Just need to clear a few things with our lawyer and line up some guests. And we're going to have a great time talking about how, well, you know what? I'll save it for another time. I'm not going to say what it is. Carmela, you got any words around that?
Just the usual, like, subscribe. If you want to join us on a future podcast, we had our team create a beautiful form that we're going to post later this week. So we're going to start taking applications for guests. We don't want shillers, but we want honest and open discussion. So yeah, if you want to join us, and one last thing, you don't just invest in tokens or stocks, you invest in content creators too. So, I saw this last week that Bankless asked for $2 million in Arbitrum tokens to feature them on their podcast, like for the next year. And a lot of people were like, grifters, and that's obscene. Why would you ever ask for that much? But they made a good point that when you're a content creator and you don't have external funding, you need to make money somehow. And they're transparent about their advertising. Maybe it goes against their ethos of decentralization with some of the things that they're shilling, but they need to make money. So I can see both sides there. And yeah, maybe one day people are going to be offering us obscene amounts of money to be featured on this podcast. Right now, the price is low, but invest while the price is low, because you never know. we're mentioning Kraken for free now, but maybe that's going to be Kraken giving us payouts for shilling them later on.
I hope so.
Let's go, man. Kraken.
I mean, this podcast has been it's been a labor of love so far, but we're going to continue doing it because we love it, and it's really exciting. We're getting to speak with a lot of really cool people and having some fantastic discussion out in the open air. So we'll see you guys next week. Thanks for tuning in again, and as always, stay safe out there. Ciao, y'all.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.